Have you ever noticed a small change in an elderly loved one? Maybe a shift in mood, a new habit, or an unexplained silence, and brushed it off as just another part of aging? What if those seemingly small changes were actually quiet signals of something deeper? In the final stretch of life, especially in the last 6 months, the body and spirit begin to communicate in powerful yet often misunderstood ways. These aren't always loud alarms or obvious symptoms. Sometimes they arrive gently, like a whisper rather than a shout. Today we're exploring 7 subtle but telling signs that many elderly individuals show before death. Signs that span the physical, emotional, and even spiritual. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness, about being present in moments that matter most. By recognizing these signals, we can create space for dignity, love, and meaningful connection. So, whether you're a caregiver, a concerned family member, or someone simply wanting to understand this sacred stage of life, stay with us. The final sign we'll talk about is one that catches many people off guard, but it carries a truth that can transform how we approach saying goodbye. Let's begin. Sign 1. Shifting sleep, when day and night blur. One of the earliest and most noticeable changes that may emerge months before passing is a shift in sleep and wake cycles. It's not just getting tired more often, it's something deeper. You might see your loved one fall asleep mid-conversation, nap for hours in the afternoon, or wake up confused about whether it's morning or night. These shifts aren't about boredom or aging. They reflect how the body is slowly loosening its grip on daily rhythms. The body's internal clock, its circadian rhythm, starts to lose structure. It becomes harder to distinguish between wakefulness and rest. And during this transition, moments of lucidity may be followed by long stretches of deep sleep or disorientation. Take Charles, for example, an 81-year-old retired teacher. His family noticed he would drift off after breakfast, then again during his favorite TV shows. At first, they thought it was harmless, but over time, he seemed increasingly disconnected, even when awake. 6 months later, Charles passed peacefully. His disrupted sleep was the body's way of retreating inward, preparing for the journey ahead. If you notice this change, don't panic. Just be present, sit quietly, hold their hand, understand that their mind and body are preparing for something you may not yet see. Sign 2. Emotional surrender, a calm that comes from within. There's something quietly profound that happens in the hearts of some elderly individuals nearing the end of life. Even those who once clung tightly to control, routine, or worry may suddenly become peaceful, eerily peaceful. This isn't always driven by religion or belief. It's more like a quiet acceptance that settles over them, a sense that the battle is ending and they are okay with it. Lorraine, an 84-year-old woman who had lived her life trying to keep everything in order. Bills paid, fridge stocked, house spotless. One afternoon, she looked at her daughter and said, "I think I've done enough now." She didn't cry, she didn't explain, she just let go. From that moment, she became softer, gentler, and more willing to just be. You might hear your loved one say things like, "I'm ready," or speak of deceased relatives as if they're nearby. You might even catch them staring into the distance, smiling at something you can't see. These are moments of clarity, not confusion. For families, this can be bittersweet, but it's also a rare opportunity to sit in that peace with them, to say what needs to be said, and to simply witness a moment that words can't quite capture. Sign 3. The vanishing appetite when food no longer matters. There's something deeply instinctual about feeding someone we love. A warm bowl of soup, a favorite snack, a cherished family dish passed down through generations. So, when a loved one begins to eat less or stops eating altogether, it can feel unsettling, even painful. But here's the truth. A declining appetite in the final months of life isn't about stubbornness or illness. It's the body speaking. As organs begin to slow down, the body no longer needs or wants the energy it once did. Digestion becomes effortful. Even the smell of once-loved foods might trigger nausea or indifference. The body is beginning its natural process of letting go. Edna, 85, once famous in her neighborhood for her lemon pound cake, began turning away from meals altogether. Her daughter tried to tempt her with old favorites, soft comfort foods, even just spoonfuls of pudding, But eventually Edna whispered, "I'm not hungry anymore." It wasn't resignation, it was peace. This shift isn't a signal to push harder, but to pivot toward presence. Maybe it's just a sip of warm tea, or sitting together while they nibble a cracker. Not for nutrition, but for connection. Let go of the urge to fix it. Instead, lean into comfort. In these moments, food isn't fuel, it's love made visible. Sign 4. The quiet. Goodbye, withdrawing from the world. One of the most overlooked yet telling changes is when a person begins gently pulling back from social life. Not in anger, not from depression, but from a quiet inner shift. Phone calls go unanswered. Visitors are politely declined. Even favorite conversations become exhausting. It may feel like they're retreating, but they're really turning inward. Walter, 79, had always been the life of the party, the first to arrive, the last to leave. But in his final months, he began skipping family dinners. He no longer replied to group texts. When asked, he simply said, "I just like the quiet these days." This withdrawal isn't rejection, it's preparation, a way of conserving energy, of wrapping up one's life internally before saying goodbye externally. For families, this can feel confusing or hurtful, but it's important to recognize that it's not about you, it's about them. Their need for silence, stillness, or solitude isn't something to fix. It's something to honor. Sit with them, even in silence. Don't fill the space with noise. Just be there. Often presence speaks louder than words. Sign 5. A sudden, surprising burst of energy. It can feel like a miracle. Someone who's been quiet, weak, maybe even non-responsive, suddenly lights up. They laugh. They ask for food. They start a conversation with surprising clarity. It's called the rally, a brief but profound resurgence of energy, sometimes just weeks or days before death. Helen, 82, had been sleeping most of the day for weeks. Then one afternoon, she asked for her favorite meal, joked with her grandson, and even walked to the kitchen table. Her family was overjoyed. For a moment, it felt like she was coming back to them. But within 48 hours, she declined again, and passed shortly after. This burst of energy isn't a sign of recovery. It's a final gift, a moment of lucidity, of connection. It can be confusing, even cruel if misunderstood. But if recognized for what it is, it becomes a rare chance to say the words that matter most, to hug a little longer, to sit and just be. If you ever witness a rally, don't waste time analyzing. Lean into it, soak up the light. Let it be a moment of presence, not false hope. Sign 6. Changing skin temperature and color. When the body begins to retreat. Another subtle but visible sign is in the skin, particularly the hands, feet, and legs. You might notice they feel cold to the touch, even when the room is warm. Fingers may turn pale, toes slightly bluish, or the skin might take on a mottled, patchy look. This isn't about poor circulation or needing more blankets. It's about the body pulling its energy inward, conserving for vital functions as it begins to wind down. Harold, 78, used to start his mornings on the porch, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. But in his final months, he stopped going outside, saying, "My hands get cold too quickly now." His daughter assumed it was just winter, but hospice later explained it was a key sign that his body was preparing for its final stage. This change isn't something to treat, it's something to understand. Instead of worrying about heaters and socks, focus on comfort, soft touches, warm blankets, and gentle presence. The chill isn't frightening for the person experiencing it. Often, they're unaware, but for loved ones, it's a quiet signal that things are changing. Sign 7. The rise of restlessness, a need to move without knowing why. In the final months or even weeks, some elderly individuals experience sudden bouts of restlessness. They might fidget in bed, try to get up without reason, or insist on rearranging pillows or blankets repeatedly. Some will remove clothing. Others may say they need to go home, even when they're already there. This isn't confusion alone. It's called terminal restlessness, and it's one of the most overlooked signs of approaching death. The movements can seem aimless, but they reflect something deeper, a mix of physical discomfort, emotional anxiety, or even a subconscious awareness that something big is coming. A woman named Joyce, 86, started pacing between her bedroom and living room at night. She couldn't explain why. "I just feel like I forgot something," she'd say. Her daughter thought it was anxiety, but her hospice nurse gently explained that this kind of behavior often surfaces when the body is preparing to let go. While it can be distressing to witness, it's not always a sign of pain. It's the body's internal compass spinning in search of peace. If you notice this restlessness, create calm, lower the lights, play soothing music, or simply hold their hand. Sometimes, the best you can offer is stillness to help counter their inner storm. What we've explored together today isn't just a list of symptoms. It's a window into one of life's most sacred transitions. Each of these 7 signs is a quiet message from the body, gently preparing for the journey ahead. They are not signs of defeat. They are signs of return, returning inward, returning to stillness, and sometimes returning to peace. Maybe you recognized one of these signs in a loved one. Maybe you've seen them in yourself. Wherever this message finds you, let it be a reminder. This stage of life, though heavy, can also be filled with grace, reflection, and meaning. It's not about predicting a moment. It's about noticing what's already unfolding and choosing to be present through it all. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to fix what cannot be fixed. What matters is showing up, with gentleness, with honesty, with love. Let these signs guide you, not to fear, but to connection. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What stood out to you the most today? Was there a story that resonated, a sign that hit close to home? Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned or one way you plan to be more present with those you love. Your voice matters, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. If this video helped you understand a little more about life's final chapter, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us reach more families who need comfort and clarity during one of life's most difficult journeys. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay kind, stay curious, and above all, stay present.